They said no nanny could stay in that house, not even for one night. Some ran out crying. Some quit before the sun came up. Some swore they would never return to that place again. But no one told Grace this. No one told her what those 3 boys had seen, what they carried inside their small bodies, or what the nights in that mansion felt like. So, when Mark Turner pushed open his bedroom door at midnight and saw Grace lying in his bed with his triplet sons wrapped around her, he froze. The room felt strange, like something heavy was sitting in the air. And for the first time in 6 long months, the boys were sleeping, calm, quiet, holding on to her like she was their last bit of safety. Grace opened her eyes slowly. She was tired. She was sad. But she did not look scared. "Mr. Turner," she whispered, "please let me explain." But he did not listen. One thought took over him, strong and painful. What is this woman doing in my bed with my children? And without waiting for her answer, he said the words that would break every life in that house. "You're fired. Leave my house now." Grace stood up, soft and careful, so she would not wake the boys. She touched their hair gently, whispered something only they could hear, took her shoes in her hand, and walked out of the room with slow steps, like a person walking away from the only place that needed her. She did not cry, but the house felt like it did, and when the door closed behind her, no one knew that her leaving would soon bring a storm that even Mark Turner could not stop. A storm that would shake the whole of New York, tear open old wounds, expose hidden truths, and force a father and a maid to fight for 3 little boys who had already lost too much. Because what Mark did not know was this: those boys had only asked Grace for one thing that night. "Please don't leave us alone in the dark." And now she was gone. The house was silent after Grace walked out, but the silence did not feel peaceful. It felt heavy, almost like the walls were holding their breath. Mark Turner stood in the middle of the room, staring at the closed door as if he could still see her shadow behind it. His suit jacket hung loose on his shoulders. His briefcase lay on the floor where it had slipped from his hand. His mind felt weak, almost confused, but he pushed the feeling away. He looked at the boys. Ethan slept with his small fingers twisted in the blanket. Noah's cheek rested on the pillow, calm for the first time in months. Caleb had one hand stretched toward the empty space where Grace had been. Their bodies were still, free from the shaking and fear that usually followed them into every night. Mark moved closer, slow and unsure. It had been so long since he saw his sons like this that he almost forgot how they looked when they were not scared. For a moment, something painful grew in his chest, but he forced it away. He told himself he did the right thing. He told himself he was their father. And a father should not see his children lying in bed with a maid. But deep inside, a small voice was saying something else. "You did not even ask her what happened." He picked up the folded note on the nightstand. He read the words again, and again, and again, until they felt like they were burning through his fingers. "They asked me not to leave them alone in the dark. Sometimes children only need someone who will stay." His throat felt tight. He set the note down quickly, almost too quickly, as if touching it hurt. He walked out of the room before he could think too much. Downstairs, Mrs. Hill was in the hallway, folding towels. She looked up when she saw him. Her eyes said everything she did not speak out loud. "She left?" she asked quietly. "Yes," Mark said, his voice stiff. Mrs. Hill let out a long sigh, the kind that comes from an older woman who has seen too much sadness in one home. "Sir, those boys, they finally slept." Mark did not answer. He turned away, walking into his study. He closed the door behind him and sat in the dark. He did not turn on the lamp. He did not touch his papers. He just sat there, seeing Grace's face, hearing the soft way she had said his name. Hours passed while he sat alone. The sky outside slowly shifted from black to gray. New York began to wake up, but the house stayed cold and still. Mark did not sleep. He thought about his wife, Laura, about the night she died, about the way the boys cried for her, about how everything changed from color to emptiness after that. He remembered the boys screaming at night. He remembered hiring nanny after nanny, doctors, therapists, sleep experts. None of them lasted. None of them understood the boys. None of them stayed long enough to care. But Grace, she stayed long enough for the boys to sleep. He did not want to think about that. He did not want to remember the gentleness in her hands, or the way the boys relaxed when she spoke to them. So he sat with his elbows on his knees, staring at nothing, trying to numb his mind. At 6:30 the morning, the screaming started. It was sharp, loud, filled with raw fear. Mark jumped up so fast that the chair fell behind him. He ran up the stairs, pushing open the boys' bedroom door. Daniel was thrashing in the sheets, kicking wildly, his breath broken into short gasps. Noah sat in the corner with his hands over his ears, rocking back and forth like his body was trying to hide inside itself. Caleb stood by the window with tears falling down his face, silent but shaking. "Where's Grace?" Daniel cried. "Where is she?" Noah cried louder, pressing his head to his knees. "I want Grace. I want Grace. Bring her back." Mark tried to move closer. "Boys, I'm here. It's okay. I'm here." "No!" Daniel screamed, and shoved his father away. "You made her leave. You make everyone leave." Those words hit Mark so hard that his breath almost stopped. He reached for Daniel again, but his son pulled back, his face twisted with pain he could not hold. "She helped us," Daniel cried. "She didn't do anything wrong." Noah shook even harder. Caleb wiped his face with the back of his hand, staring at Mark with a sadness that felt too deep for a child. Mrs. Hill appeared in the doorway. She looked at the scene, then at Mark, and shook her head. Her voice was firm when she spoke to the boys. "Come on, boys, come downstairs. Breakfast is ready." The boys followed her, without looking at Mark. When they were gone, Mrs. Hill turned to him. "Sir," she said with steady eyes, "you fired the only person who helped them." Mark felt his chest tighten again. Mrs. Hill continued, her voice calm but strong. "Do you know what happened last night?" Mark said nothing. "The nanny quit. Number 24. The boys locked themselves in your bedroom. They screamed so loud I thought someone would call the police. Noah could not breathe. I was about to call for help." She paused, letting the truth sink into him like a knife. Grace heard them. She talked to them. It took 20 minutes before they even opened the door for her, and when they did, they begged her to stay. Mark felt dizzy, like the ground beneath him was not steady anymore. "There is more," Mrs. Hill said. She reached for her phone, scrolled, and showed him a photo. Grace, kneeling next to Noah, bandaging his scraped knee. Another photo of her reading to the boys in the library. Another of her teaching Ethan how to tie his shoes. And then one more. "Last week," Mrs. Hill said quietly, "Noah choked on a grape. Grace saved him. She told me not to mention it. She said you had enough to worry about." Mark's breath left his body. "Who is she?" he whispered. Mrs. Hill looked at him with sad eyes. "She was a pediatric nurse," she said softly. "She lost her daughter, 4 years old. Allergic reaction. After that, she left everything behind." Mark felt something break inside him. And for the first time, he understood the weight of what he had done. Grace was not just a maid. She was the only person who knew how to hold his broken sons together, and he had pushed her out into the night. Mark did not go to work that day. He sat in the study with the door half open, listening to the sounds of the house. He heard the boys downstairs, their voices tired and low. He heard Mrs. Hill trying her best to keep things calm. He heard the clink of dishes, the scrape of chairs, the soft sniffles of 3 children whose world had cracked in the night. Every sound felt like a reminder of what he had broken. He picked up the note again. The simple words shook him every time he read them. They asked me not to leave them alone in the dark. Sometimes children only need someone who will stay. He set the note down and pressed his hands to his face. He had fired her without a question, without listening, without stopping to breathe. His mind had gone straight to fear, to anger, to the things he never admitted were inside him. It made him feel ashamed in a way he could not name yet. Hours passed. He did not eat. He did not move. He just sat there with the truth around him. By afternoon, Mrs. Hill knocked softly on the study door. "Sir," she said, stepping inside, "they are refusing lunch. They keep asking when Grace is coming back." Mark nodded without lifting his head. "I know. You should talk to them." He let out a long breath. "I do not know what to say." Mrs. Hill looked at him with steady eyes. "Then start with the truth." He stood up slowly, his body heavy, his heart even heavier. He walked up the stairs and stopped at the boys' bedroom door. He could hear quiet crying inside. He pushed the door open. The 3 boys were on the floor. Ethan sat with his knees pulled up, rocking slightly the way he did when he was scared. Noah stared at the wall, hands in his lap, small fingers trembling. Caleb held one of Grace's hair ties, the one she used to wear on her wrist, and he pressed it to his cheek. Mark stepped inside. "Boys." No one looked at him. He knelt on the floor slowly. "I know you are upset. I know you miss her." Ethan lifted his head. His eyes were red. "You made her leave." The words were soft but sharp. Mark swallowed hard. "I made a mistake." Noah turned toward him, tears rolling down his face. "Why did you shout at her? She helps us. She listens." Caleb finally looked up. His voice was tiny. "She did not do anything wrong." Mark felt each word hit him like cold water. He wanted to pull them close, but he knew he had to earn that again. He spoke slowly. "I did not understand what happened last night. I should have asked you. I should have asked her. I should not have shouted. I should not have told her to leave." Ethan wiped his nose with his sleeve. "Are we getting another nanny?" "No," Mark said quickly. "No more nannies." Caleb clutched the hair tie tighter. "Then who will help us when it gets dark?" Mark's voice broke. "I will. And I am going to find Grace." The 3 boys sat still. The room felt like it had stopped breathing. "You will bring her back?" Noah asked softly. "I will try," Mark said. "I do not know if she will want to come back, but I will try." The boys did not smile, but hope flickered in their sad faces. Mark stood and left the room. He walked down the stairs, grabbed his coat, and headed toward the door. Mrs. Hill watched him with tired but hopeful eyes. "Where will you start?" she asked. "Anywhere I can," he said. "I will search every place until I find her." Mrs. Hill nodded. "Good. Because she is not someone you let go." Mark stepped into the cold New York air. He drove through the city, his mind full of questions. He did not know where she lived. He did not know her family. He only knew the name she had written on job forms. Grace. No last name. No address. He visited the old employment agency first, but she had not checked in. He stopped at a church she once mentioned in passing, but no one had seen her. He asked at small stores near the boys' school. Nothing. Every street felt long. Every hour felt painful. And with each stop, he felt the weight of his actions more deeply. By evening, his coat was soaked from the cold wind, and his voice felt dry from asking strangers the same question again and again. "Have you seen a woman named Grace?" It was a small bakery owner who finally said, "Try the shelter on West 12th. Sometimes people go there when they need quiet." Mark drove there at once. The shelter was a small brick building with a worn sign. Women and children walked in and out, carrying blankets and boxes of food. Inside, the smell of soup filled the air. Volunteers moved quickly, handing out plates, pouring drinks, setting tables. And then he saw her. Grace was standing behind the serving counter, tying her apron, her eyes tired but gentle as she passed a bowl of soup to a young mother. She looked different, not weaker, just more guarded, like she had built a wall around herself after leaving his house. Mark stood in the doorway, frozen. His throat felt tight. He did not know how to call her name without breaking. A volunteer beside her noticed him. "Can I help you?" Grace looked up at the sound of the voice. Her eyes met Mark's. For a moment, her hands stopped moving. Her face did not show anger, but it did not show softness either. "Only distance, Mr. Turner," she said quietly. "You should not be here." Mark stepped forward. "I need to talk to you." "I am working, please." "It is Miss Grace," she said gently but firm, "and I do not have anything to say to you." She turned and walked toward the kitchen. Mark followed her, heart heavy. "Grace, I was wrong. I was very wrong." She kept washing dishes, her back to him. "You fired me. You shouted at me. You did not stop to listen." "I know. You saw me in your bed with your children," she said, turning to him now, "and you thought the worst. You did not think about them. You did not think about me. You only thought about fear." Mark lowered his head. "I am ashamed." Grace took a slow breath. "The boys, they carry so much pain. I stayed because they needed someone who would not leave them in the dark. But you pushed me out anyway." Mark felt his eyes burn. "They have not slept since you left. They cry for you." Grace closed her eyes. Her hands shook slightly, but she did not speak, and Mark knew winning her trust back would break him before it healed anything. Grace kept washing the dishes, her hands moving slowly under the warm water, but Mark could see the pain hidden in her movements. She was trying to stay calm, trying to keep her wall high. The kitchen felt too quiet, like every pot and spoon was listening to their words. Mark stepped closer but kept a little distance. "Grace, I know you do not want to hear this, but I need to say it. The boys need you. They keep asking for you. They refuse to sleep. They refuse to eat. They feel like you left because of them." Grace stiffened. She did not turn around. "That is not fair," she whispered. "I know," Mark said softly, "but that is how they feel. They lost their mother. They lost every nanny. And now, they think they lost you too." Grace closed her eyes. Her breath broke a little. "I did not leave them," she said in a small voice. "You sent me away." Mark felt the truth hit him again, sharp and cold. "I know, and I am trying to fix that." She finally turned. Her face was wet with tears she had not noticed. "You cannot fix everything with one apology, Mr. Turner." Mark nodded slowly. "I know that too." Grace looked down at her hands. "Do you know why I stayed in that bed with them?" she asked quietly. Mark shook his head. "Tell me." She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. "Because they were shaking. All three of them. Ethan kept saying he did not want the night to swallow him. Noah kept asking if he could breathe. Caleb kept asking if I would still be there in the morning. They begged me not to leave." She let out a tired sigh. "So I stayed. Not as a maid. Not as anything special. I stayed as someone who cared." Mark lowered his head. "I should have asked what happened. I should have trusted you." Grace looked at him with tired eyes. "Trust is not something people like me get easily." "What do you mean?" he asked. She swallowed hard. "A black woman lying in your bed with your white sons. You did not see safety. You saw danger." She shook her head slowly. "People see the outside of me before they see my heart. It has been that way my whole life." Her words stabbed deep, opening a truth Mark had been avoiding. "You are right," he whispered. "I did not see you. I only saw something I was taught to fear, and I am ashamed of that." Grace turned back to the sink, trying to steady her breath. "You hurt me, Mr. Turner. Deep." "I know," he whispered. "But I am asking you, please do not give up on me. Or the boys." A long silence filled the kitchen. Grace stared at the water running over her fingers. Her shoulders trembled. She was fighting tears she did not want to show. Then she spoke. I am scared, she said softly. The boys, they remind me of everything I lost. Mark's chest tightened. Your daughter? Grace nodded. Her name was Lily. She was 4. She died because I did not know she was allergic to a bee. Her breath shook. I was a nurse. I was supposed to know. I was supposed to save her. But I did not. Mark stepped closer. It was not your fault, Grace. She looked up, eyes full of pain. But I carry it. Every day. Every morning. Every night. And sometimes when I look at your boys, I feel the same fear I felt with her. The fear of losing them, too. Mark wanted to say something, but his voice failed. He understood now. Grace was not just helping his sons. She was fighting her own grief every time she touched them. Before he could speak again, a shelter staff member walked in, holding a small phone. Miss Grace, the woman said, you have a call. It's 3 boys, I think. Grace's eyes widened. She grabbed the phone with shaking hands. Hello? The voices came through the phone, broken by sobs. Grace, please come home. It is dark, and we cannot sleep. We miss you, please. Grace covered her mouth as tears rolled down her face. Her body bent forward from the weight of their voices. Mark felt his throat tighten. He spoke gently. They need you, not another nanny. Not me alone. You. Grace wiped her tears. Mr. Turner, I do not know if I can walk back into that house. You do not have to walk back as the maid, he said. Walk back as someone they trust. Someone they hold on to. Someone who stays. Grace breathed slowly, deeply, trying to steady her shaking hands. She looked at Mark for a long moment. Her eyes were sad, scared, but full of something else too, something she had not allowed herself to feel since her daughter died. Hope, she finally whispered. Give me a day, Mark nodded. I will wait. The next morning, the boys sat on the couch. Blankets wrapped around them. The house felt frozen. No cartoons, no noise, no joy. Every time the doorbell rang in the neighborhood, they lifted their heads, then lowered them again when it wasn't her. Then, at 8:12 a.m., the front door opened. Soft footsteps moved across the hallway. Ethan sat up first. Noah held his breath. Caleb's eyes filled with tears. Grace stepped into the living room with slow steps, her hands shaking, her bag still over her shoulder. Her eyes were gentle, unsure, but ready. The boys ran to her so fast, they almost knocked her down. They cried into her clothes, gripping her arms, touching her face, holding her like someone who had come back from a long journey. Grace knelt and pulled all 3 of them close. I am so sorry, she whispered into their hair. I am here now. Mark stood near the doorway, watching. His eyes burned, but this time from something warm. Grace looked up at him. Her voice was soft, serious. We need to talk. They went to the study. She sat in the chair straight, her hands on her lap. If I return, she said, things must change. Anything you need, Mark replied. She spoke slowly, clearly. I am not your maid. I am here for the boys. I need full say in their care. I need you in counseling with us. I need you present, not just in the house, but in their lives. And if you ever speak to me again the way you did that night, I will leave. And this time, I will not look back. Mark nodded without hesitation. Agreed. Grace took a deep breath. I will stay, she whispered. As long as they need me. Outside the study, the boys listened. They leaned on each other and smiled through their tears. For the first time in months, the house felt like a place where healing could begin. Dear viewers, this story you have just watched is not only about a maid, a millionaire, and 3 broken boys. It is about what happens when a person chooses to stay, even when life tells them to run. It is about pain that hides behind closed doors, and love that grows in the most unexpected places. It is about Grace, a woman who carried her own wounds, yet still found the strength to heal others. And it is about Mark, a father who thought he had lost everything, learning how to open his heart again and face his mistakes with truth. Most of all, it is about three little boys who were lost in the dark until someone showed them that they did not have to face that darkness alone. Dear viewers, tell me where you are watching from and what this story taught you. Did it touch your heart? Did it remind you of someone who stayed by your side when life was hard, or someone you wished had stayed? Please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories that heal, inspire, and remind us that kindness still exists. And if you want more stories from us, comment "more stories" and you will be the first to get the next emotional story. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the people we overlook are the ones sent to save us.